They come in all shapes and sizes. E-cigarettes can even be as discreet as a flash drive. But this morning, new concerns over the popular products. The Food and Drug Administration announcing they will investigate a possible link between vaping and seizures. This after the FDA revealed since 2010, they've received 35 reports of seizures among teenagers using e-cigarettes. The FDA writing, "We have reports indicating that some people who use e-cigarettes, especially youth and young adults, are experiencing seizures following their use." The FDA's announcement increasing scrutiny on the booming industry. One e-cigarette company saying in part they will vigilantly monitor for any evidence of safety issues and work cooperatively with FDA as we continue to combat youth usage. According to the CDC, 3.5 million middle school and high school students reported vaping in 2018. More than 10 times the number of teen users in 2011. Just last year, the FDA limited the sales of flavored products to try to keep them out of the hands of teenagers. Luca Kaynard was a 14-year-old freshman when he started using e-cigarettes and says he quickly became addicted.
When I tried to stop on my own, I felt very defeated because I would not stop.
For Luca and his mother, Kelly Kaynard, the FDA's investigation is a welcome development.
His behavior became explosive. He was very angry, and it just wasn't him.
Luca says he had a severe seizure after a long night of vaping.
I'm not aware of all the full-on medical effects, but there definitely are some.
After a 40-day stint in rehab, Luca gave up vaping, warning others of the possible dangers as e-cig devices face a new cloud of controversy.
Now, the FDA wants to make it very clear their investigation has just begun, and they say they have not yet made a direct connection between seizures and vaping, but they are asking consumers to report any seizures or unexpected health problems that may happen to them after using e-cigarettes. Guys?
All right. Gadi Schwartz there for us in L.A. Thanks, Gadi.
We're going to talk more about this with NBC News medical correspondent Dr. John Torres. Dr. John, so we were talking about there were 35 reported cases over the course of 9 years. So it struck us as wondering, I wonder why that would prompt an investigation in the first place.
And even the FDA, Dr. Gottlieb said, It might not seem like a lot of cases, but we're concerned enough to look into this because of a few things. One, we're talking seizures, which themselves can become dangerous. Two, it seems to be affecting teens and young adults, which with their developing brains, that can be a problem, especially as they get older in life. And three, there's no real pattern behind this. For some people, it happened after the first puffs. For some people, it happened a day later. Some people were people who had used e-cigarettes for a long time. Other ones, it was the very first time they tried it. Some people had seizure issues in their background, in their medical history. Others didn't. So they really can't find a pattern. Plus, it seems to be accelerating. It seems to be happening more and more often, especially since June.
So does this amount to the FDA doing a call out? Hey, tell us if you have a problem. And is that unusual for it to do?
It is unusual for them to do, especially do it in this public of a forum here. And what they're saying is, we want more reports on this. If this has happened to you, please contact us. They developed a safety portal you can go to. Today.com, there's a story about the vaping. We put the safety portal link in there so you can go ahead and go to it if you've experienced any of this, because they think this is just the tip of the iceberg. They think there's more people out there having these issues, just haven't reported them.
What do you say to people, and I've got a number of friends who contend this, that vaping, it's safer than traditional cigarettes. It's not nearly as bad.
And the way we talk about it is, if you're a chronic smoker, then vaping is safer than smoking those cigarettes as much as you do. But that does not mean that vaping is safe. And we're finding out more and more things like this connection are possibly there, the seizures. Also, when you vape, you're getting chemicals in your body that you don't know about. Formaldehyde, acetaldehyde. You're getting all these different chemicals into your body. And vaping, they have another name for them, ENDS, E-N-D-S. Electronic nicotine delivery systems. And so they're delivering this high dose of nicotine. That's where they think the connection might be with the
How much more nicotine are we talking about?
It's a lot more nicotine. With cigarettes, it's virtually impossible to overdose on nicotine. With these e-cigarettes, it seems like you possibly could at a point, and that's what the big concern is, especially, again, in the young, the teens, and the young adults.
Once you're hooked on nicotine, I mean, they say it's the most addictive substance.
It is, and that's the concern, is they're going to get these teenagers who are hooked on nicotine switch over to cigarettes. That's another concern with
Dr. Torres, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.